I'm always going to tell you, you need to be able to know where your money is going, how much money is coming in, because the reality is, I don't care what you're doing. If you're calling it a business, it needs to be profitable to you at some point. And a lot of people, especially when you're starting out, and I stress this all the time, which is why I'm like a huge, like, there's always a huge communication with me now more than ever, because I'm like, I need people to understand this, how important bookkeeping is. I tell people sometimes you're selling your product for a rate that you can't afford to sell it at. And sometimes you're giving discounts you can't afford. Oh yeah, Black Friday's coming. Yeah. Oh, Black Friday's coming. I'm going to give 50% off. Hey, can you afford that? If you give 50% off, does that mean that you're giving away your entire profit? Is that what that means? Because, at the same time, when you're starting your business, you're probably not getting your materials, your supplies, your service. You're probably not getting these things for the cheapest rate.
You're listening to the Black to Business podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall.
Okay, family, so tax season is just around the corner and most important deadlines are on April 15th, FYI. So this episode is truly important to help you prepare for tax season and to also make sure that your business is properly structured. In true Black to Business fashion, we want to help you prepare for tax season, but also, again, make sure your business is properly structured and your finances are in order. So today we have a very special guest, Shaquanna Brooks, tax expert and CEO of Brooks Alliance. You may have seen her on Instagram as she goes by Miss Business 101, and honestly, she lives up to her name. I'm excited to share this episode because we got down to the nitty gritty. In this interview, I got to talk to Shaquanna about the different business entities, why a bookkeeper and accountant are essential in your business, and how to pay yourself in business. So let's get into it. So today we are talking all about business formation, and I'm very excited about my guest today. I've seen her speak before and I just felt like, oh my God, we need to get her on Black to Business. So I want to welcome Shaquanna, who is also the founder of Miss Business 101. Welcome, Shaquanna.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you reaching out, and I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Great. Yes, of course. So I listen to you and I've seen you everywhere almost. And you really know your stuff. I'm like, okay, we need to have her on Black to Business because people in my audience needs to know the proper steps on how to form a business. And I feel like you're the person. So let's get started. So for those who don't yet know who you are, if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got where you are today, and what is it that you do in your business?
Okay, perfect. So, as you already introduced, my name is Shaquanna, but I do go by Miss Business across all social media platforms. I am a CPA, so I'm a certified public accountant. I started out in public accounting. I worked at Big Four accounting firm for 6.5 years. It was a long 6.5 years, but I do not regret it. It was definitely what I needed. Like I always tell people, you'll never hear me downplay a 9 to 5, because sometimes that's what you need, to get you the skills and the knowledge, and the experience that you need. So I stayed there for 6.5 years. I first was, working with mutual funds, which was pretty much like the investment vehicle for 401ks. So I first was working with mutual funds, and then I switched over to real estate private equity. I really, really love real estate. So I stayed there for a while, and then I decided to start my own business. I have a background. My dad owns restaurants throughout New York City. That's where I'm from. So he owns restaurants throughout Brooklyn. And he's always owned these restaurants since I was a little girl. So I have been in the business world forever. And so I felt that there was a big disconnect between how corporations operate their business and approach taxes and how small businesses approach taxes. And so I decided to pretty much launch my tax and accounting firm, Brooks Alliance. And at Brooks Alliance, we service small businesses, medium-sized businesses, contractors, freelancers, just pretty much helping those individuals or business owners to navigate what, taxes mean. What are the requirements? I have seen people lose their businesses due to taxes. And so, it really is super important for you to be able to position yourself, right? Because, and I know we'll talk more about this, but when it comes to taxes, accounting, it's all about positioning, right? Like all of those documents are needed in order for you to qualify for loans, to stay in compliance with your business. For you, if you plan to sell your business at some point, that's going to be necessary. If you have investors, is necessary, So, for me, it was just like, I need to get in here and I need to help. That's why, you mentioned that you always hear me, everywhere. You always see me places. It's because I'm trying to get that messaging out, right? Like that taxes is important, because before I started really talking about taxes a few years ago, I felt that no one was having this conversation about taxes and how important it is. And then I have people calling me and they're like, should I do LLC or S Corp? I'm like, yes. People are like having the conversation. So yeah, that's my intro and my spiel and my why and, what I do. Oh, I didn't talk about my services in terms of like services that at Brooks Alliance, what we do. We do tax preparation, bookkeeping, business formation, payroll, tax planning. And I do all of those services because they're needed. When you are launching your business or you have a business, you need those services. If you don't need everything, you probably would need every single service. And so I say that my accounting firm is the hand holders of all accounting firms, because I'm like, okay, what do you need? Let me walk you there. Let me introduce you to the person. Let me give you this. Let me help you, because that's what's needed. I feel sometimes to help people go from point A to point Z. You just need that person to help you navigate. So that's my intro.
I am so excited because I love how in depth you went into, I think it's key because especially for our audience, a lot of them are in the idea phase or they are in the first couple of years. But like you mentioned, it's important to talk about taxes. A lot of people used to not want to. So I'm excited to get into some little step by step, because that's what makes this podcast different. We like to have step by step. So you mentioned people are asking you about, should I do an LLC? Should I do a sole proprietor? Let's talk about the different types of entities. If you could just kind of like explain what do those mean?
Sure. So when you are a sole proprietorship, that means that you are operating, and there's no real distinction between you and your business, meaning that if someone goes to sue your business, they can sue you too, because you have not taken the steps to register your business to operate separately. A lot of people will call me and they'll, ask me, hey, do you think that I should be a sole proprietorship? It's very rare unless someone says to me, I'm not really going to do this business, that I'm going to tell you, yes, that you need to be a sole proprietorship. One, when you have a business, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. And one thing is, that your liability. You want to make sure that you are separating your assets from your business assets, your income from your business income, right? And so first step of doing that is by forming your business, whether that, is an LLC, corporation, S Corp, and we'll talk about that. But another thing is from a tax perspective, sole proprietorships, which a lot of contractors fall under sole proprietors, right? Because they're pretty much conducting work and that income is being reported under their social. So it is a situation where, they are like the highest tax group, right? Sole proprietorships. So that is key. So for those reasons, I really will tell people to conduct themselves as sole proprietors. On top of the fact that when you really start to, get into certain businesses and you need certain things, it just doesn't come off as your business is as well put together and established. More so like, like not to be taken as seriously as like a registered entity. Right. And so that's the first with sole proprietorships. Now, the other entity types are LLCs and corporations. And so LLC, which is a limited liability company, that pretty much will separate out your business from your personal. And with that, you can have single member LLCs or you can have multi-member LLCs. And so with the single member LLCs, it is from now it's like a little bit of a sole proprietorship and having your LLC. Now it's more like you have your business entity set up. So you have that separation of liability. However, from a tax perspective, you're taxed the same exact way as a sole proprietor as you are as a single member LLC. Right. So that is the similarities and the differences between those two. Now with a corporation is different in the sense of a corporation is also, it's a registered business. It's also separated out. Now, the difference is at a corporate level with corporations, you file your taxes at the business level, right? And actually, I want to go back. Actually, I'll talk about S Corps and then I'll talk about how LLCs and S Corps differ from a tax perspective. But with corporations, you pay taxes at the business level. Right? There is like complete separation, while with an LLC or an S Corp, there is some pass-through income. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So with your corporation, that tax rate is 21%, right? So I've had clients when Trump came into office, he did lower the tax rate significantly. I have some clients who will say, oh yeah, I want to be a corporation because Trump lowered the taxes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best tax bracket for you. And the reason why that may not be the tax bracket for you is because if you have your LLC and your S Corp, now before I actually go into that, let me just explain what an S Corp is. So for clarification, an S Corp is not an entity type. An S Corp is a tax election. So what that means is if you can be an LLC and then choose to be taxed as an S Corp, you can start out as a corporation and then you can elect to be taxed as an S Corp. Okay. So it is not an entity type. It is a tax election. Okay. And so now the similarities, and I call an S Corp, a bridge between an LLC and a corporation. Reason being is because with an LLC and an S Corp, they both are pass-through entities. And what a pass-through entity is that means that your business files an informational tax return. So that's your income, your expenses, reporting everything relating to your business on this tax return. And then it's passed through to your personal taxes and it's taxed there, which is different with the corporate taxes because corporate taxes, there's a situation where you just pay taxes at the business level. There's no pass through. You can pay yourself a salary out of your corporation. You can give a distribution to yourself out of your corporation. However, it isn't a pass through, meaning at the profit of the business, you don't take the whole 100% of the profit from the business and then tax it on your personal tax return. Okay, so that's pretty much like some differences between the two. Between the four of those. And they are extremely important. And what I am going to say, because I know you mentioned that, a lot of your audience is in the idea phase, it's important to know where you're going, right? It is extremely important to know where you're going because outside of those, introductory differences that I just talked about, there's some other major differences, right? Like if you have a plan, like you go into your business and you're like, listen, I want to build this business up because I want to sell it, then guess what? You may want to be a corporation because there are certain tax codes and certain things that will benefit, the business when it's time to sell. If you say, I want to have employees, it may be more beneficial for, some employees, and I want to give them, let's say profit sharing. That may be more beneficial for you to either be an S corp or a corporation. How much money you're making, that takes, like as I mentioned, if you are going to be an LLC or S corp and your business is going to be, if you plan to be making more than a certain amount, it may make sense for you to be a corporation, right? And so while I always explain all those things, no two scenarios or businesses are the same, right? Everybody has different goals. Everybody has different products, how they're selling them, when they, intend to terminate the business, if they do intend to terminate the business, it all matters and it all plays a part. And another thing that I just want to shed light on is that those things should be a constant conversation between you and whomever your accountant is. What's your entity type? What's best for you? What's next? What do you need to do? Right? Because those things change. You may start out, like when I started Miss Business because I wanted to teach people about financial literacy. Right. And Brooks Alliance was definitely a thing. Like I've always had my tax and accounting company backing it. But Miss Business has taken on a whole world of its own.
Really has.
Yeah.
Really has.
It's
even now, I'm hiring her because I see why they call you Miss Business.
Yeah. So
breaking it down.
Yeah. So it's Miss Business has taken on a whole life. So sometimes, your business and your dreams and what you want becomes so much bigger than what you could even imagine. And, another thing that's super, super important, and I like to say to all new business owners, is you have to have that, you have to have people on your team. You have to take the time to build your team, your accountant, your lawyer, your loan officer, your banker. You have to take the time to build that, because guess what? Those are the people that's in your corner. Those are the people that wealthy people have on their team, right? So you guys have to also take the initiative to build your team, and then build the team that's going to help you, right? Because, and I was just having this conversation with a client earlier where, she started a new business and she's been following me for a while, and, she talks to me, I answer. And, she has questions, I'll answer. And she's just like, wow, I have an accountant. I've been filing my personal taxes with this accountant for years. But I don't know, they're not able to give me any input as it relates to my business. And that's important. You cannot, the person that files your personal taxes, and just because you've been going to that person for your personal taxes, does that person know business taxes? And I'm not talking about, do they know how to just try to write everything off, right? Do they really understand the tax code as it relates to business, as it relates to real estate, as it relates to trucking, whatever your industry is, right? You have to make sure that you have people on your team that can help you. And the reality is, I tell people all the time, I would love to help. I try to help as many people as I can in terms of hiring. But at the end of the day, you have a business to run. And if this person is not serving you, then they're hurting you. So you want to make sure that you have people on your team that can help you.
I love that. I think that's so important to even just drill that in for people, because, I feel like that's one thing we have to start talking about is from day one, thinking about your team, thinking about your finances and keeping those people in place. So how early would you say people should start tracking their finances? Because some people are, like you said, they don't know if they want to be, it might be a side thing. They don't know how serious they want to get. So how early should you look into getting an accountant, a bookkeeper, and all of those things?
Okay. So what I was saying, I always tell people, I always tell my clients or anyone that I speak to, what you need. I provide all the services, but that doesn't mean you need all my services at that point, right? I like to meet my clients where they are and then grow with them as they grow. I'm not, I see bigger picture. So like, I will never say, oh yeah, you need me to come in and be your bookkeeper. If you're like, hey, I have a hobby. No, you don't need me to be your bookkeeper. But what I am going to tell you is that you do need some sort of bookkeeping software, right? So like, you do need a QuickBooks or Xero or whatever. I use QuickBooks internally with my clients. And, like, I have like rates that QuickBooks will give me, and I extend it to my clients just because I'm like, this is important and you need to have it, which is like cheaper than like retail rate, right? So for me, it's a situation where I'm always going to tell you, you need to be able to know where your money is going, how much money is coming in, because the reality is, I don't care what you're doing. If you're calling it a business, it needs to be profitable to you at some point. And a lot of people, especially when you're starting out, and I stress this all the time, which is why I'm like a huge, like, there's always a huge communication with me now more than ever, because I'm like, I need people to understand this, how important bookkeeping is. I tell people sometimes you're selling your product for a rate that you can't afford to sell it at. And sometimes you're giving discounts you can't afford. Oh yeah, Black Friday's coming. Yeah. Oh, Black Friday's coming. I'm going to give 50% off. Hey, can you afford that? If you give 50% off, does that mean that you're giving away your entire profit? Is that what that means? Because, at the same time, when you're starting your business, you're probably not getting your materials, your supplies, your service. You're probably not getting these things for the cheapest rate. So, I have some clients who their markup is 300%, and I have some clients who their markup is 50%. But the reality is, it's one of those things where you have to know how much is costing you to do business. And if you don't know how much is costing you to do business, then, you may be giving out discounts that you can't afford. And then it becomes more personal when someone says, can I have a discount? You like a discount? So hold on, you want me to give you like, let's say you sell a shirt for $10 or let's say $20, right? That's more about $25. And let's say you buy the shirt for $10, then you got to get screen prints and whatever. Let's just say at the end, you $15, right? It costs you to make this shirt, ship this shirt, do all this stuff, right? By the time you factor in shipping, packaging, getting the shirt, printing the shirt, all that stuff, you $15 in. And you selling this shirt for $25, and then you decide to give half off on Black Friday, you cannot afford to do that. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to understand, and it takes time to get to that point. And so that's why I always tell people, you have to do it. Like the QuickBooks subscription, it's like $32 a month, right? It's like QuickBooks Essential. I do not recommend QuickBooks Self-Employed, only because when you decide to upgrade, you can't. And QuickBooks Self-Employed really isn't, it isn't something that's supposed to be long-term. It's something that, you get if you're like a contractor or, you just want to kind of do something quick, but it doesn't allow you, once your business really starts to grow, it doesn't allow you to upgrade. You'll have to start all over. It's like a whole thing. So for me, QuickBooks Essential, it's like $30 something a month. Honestly, if, you have to figure it out and you have to fit it in. It's like non-negotiable to me. Like you have to understand your financials. You have to get into the understanding of somebody saying, oh, I need a P&L from you. That's a profit and loss statement. Okay. I need a profit and loss statement. Once you pull that profit and loss statement, okay, what exactly is on there? Like, what does it mean? What is it saying? You need a balance sheet. What is that? What goes on there? What does it really mean? There's things that you just definitely need to know as a business owner, and it changes everything. It changes everything when you start to do it. So that would be my suggestion. I have, like I said, I have that. I also created like a subscription program because I told you I like to meet my clients where they are. Yes. I would have clients that are like, oh, I'm going to do my own bookkeeping. Then tax time come around, no bookkeeping is done. I'm like, oh my God, these people are killing me. I don't know what I'm going to do.
That was me this year.
So I created, because before I would just have professional bookkeeping. I come in, I do your books, and, we have our meetings to discuss your financial statements. That's my professional bookkeeping. But I said, you know what? Let me try something like a subscription program where it's like, I can kind of meet my client in the middle where they're like, you know what, I'm going to do this, but at the same time, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I said, okay, we go in, we build framework for you. We have a call. We tell you what you need to do. What you need to do. We do your reconciliation for a month. We pretty much just go through and do everything for you for 1 month and then show you. And then after that, there's a subscription program and you get to just, email in and just let us know hey, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't know how to do that. Can you let me know? So it's kind of like having a support team. And, it really has made a big difference with my clients because they have that support. A lot of the times when we get stuck with something and we don't know how to do it, we just give up and it gets thrown to the wayside. So, I'm trying. Girl, I'm trying to have as much conversation and think of as much as I can to just help business owners, because I know it's tough. It's tough when you don't know, but it's something that you want to do.
Definitely. And I think that's important. It seems to me like you have a good relationship with your clients. So how accessible should an accountant be to a client, or how much should they reach out to an accountant, for those questions that they have versus a book?
I'm so happy that you asked that. So I think that people have to understand, because I think that because I'm online and I'm super personable and people are they only want to talk to me. I have a business, a whole business. I have employees, and sometimes I have to check clients hey, you can't be rude to my employees because you're you want to throw a fit because you can't talk to me throughout every step of the process, right? We're not going to do that. I'm never going to allow my employees to be rude to you. I'm not going to allow you to be rude to them. And so, I do have those few clients every so often that I definitely have to, I have to check. But what I do say is that there's a difference between your CPA, meaning that you're paying me a retainer every single month to answer your questions, to do whatever work you need me to do, and your tax preparer. Like I said, I'm super passionate about helping people and having the conversations, but I do think that there's a huge disconnect where people will feel oh, if you do my taxes, then that means that you are you have to answer my questions throughout the year. I do it, honestly. I don't know for how long. Right. Or I'll like have my team answer, like I'll make sure that their questions get answered. But there's a huge difference between having, you know, a personal CPA where they're there, you know, you get to call them up, ask them your questions, help you. Because if you have to think about it, I'm saving people thousands and thousands of dollars by the question, right? Like I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna let you know, no, you don't need to do that. No, you need to do this and you need to do it like that. And that's just who I am. But there is a huge difference between the two. And so if you want somebody to, you know, like for me, I have like consultations, like I'll tell clients, because when you're starting a business, you may not want to put me on retainer. Maybe you can't afford to put me on retainer, which is fine. But, you know, at the same time, you have to respect my time as well, right? So like I have consultations, right? So you can just schedule a consultation with me and just, I tell people, have all of your questions listed out and we can go through them. But, you know, trust me, I deal with it. And I'm so happy that you asked that, because some people are like, yeah, you filed my taxes and I need you to do this. And I need you to talk to my mortgage lender. And I need you to talk to my lawyer too. I have a question because I'm about to close on a house. And I need this letter. And I need, you know, and it's nonstop. And it's like, but I just filed your taxes. You know, I did that. You know, it's like, I did your taxes. You know, like you don't pay me to like be at your call, you know, whenever. But at the same, like right now, I'm trying to find my bridge. So what I do is I kind of thug things out until I figure out how I can service clients the best way. Like for right now, I'm in the process of getting ready to start doing tax planning with clients. And so that's pretty much what tax planning is. Oh, one thing I want to say, business owners, you cannot have a conversation with your accountant January through April. It's already too late. right? If you really want to be proactive about saving on taxes, you can't talk to them in 2021 about things from 2020, right? January through April is a great time for employees to worry about taxes, right? Because the taxes have already been being taken out for them throughout the year. When you're a business owner, you want to proactively have that conversation, especially when you're operating at a profit, right? And what I mean by that is like, for instance, right, I have clients, especially a lot of my bookkeeping clients. I know where they are. And that's another reason why bookkeeping is important, right? We can have these discussions up front. So I'm meeting with my clients now, and we're going to talk about, hey, this is potentially where your tax liability is going. What is it that you want to do? You want to start a trucking company? You want to buy a truck? You have kids. Why aren't they on payroll? You have, so now I'm able to give suggestions, and we're able to effectively strategize in terms of what needs to be done in order for them to reduce their tax liability. That's how you get down to paying lower tax rates. That's how you get to that point. You don't get down to paying lower tax rates by sitting there trying to write everything off, right? Or make up expenses. Because guess what? If in the event you're audited, it's going to be bad. Like, they're now going to tell you owe, this astronomical amount of money, right? Because you don't have anything to support it. Your taxes were fraudulently done. You don't know how many people reach out to me like, oh my God, this person told me they can get me back so much money. And then I got audited 3 years later, and oh my God, now I owe all this money and all these interest and all these penalties. Right. And so, that is extremely important. And so, all of these things start to have a domino effect and really, really play a part. And, it's like super important. Tax planning is key. It really is key.
And I can imagine people, having, like I said before, you're everywhere. So having that fine line between business and, what you can reach out to me for, because that's what happens when you're in the business of serving.
Yes.
So it's good that you brought that up. And, we talked about these are the important things that you want to have when you first start your business. I know for my audience, they're starting out, and we want to make sure they're starting out right and not waiting to the last minute. So, of course, people are figuring out where should they disperse their money, their starter money. So can you give us a general idea of how much people should budget for either, starting out with a bookkeeper or an accountant?
Honestly, it depends, right? And I'm going to say it depends, but I hate when people tell me it depends when I'm looking for information. So I will elaborate on that. Now, It depends on the type of person, right? And what that person has going on and what they can afford. So now, and that's the tricky part about being a business owner when you're first starting out. So, and I'll give you my rates. Like, my professional bookkeeping starts at $250 per month. My subscription bookkeeping starts at, there's a one-time setup fee of $350, and then it's $49 a month, right? Or you could just you can do it yourself, right? Where the bookkeeping, the QuickBooks is $32 a month, right? So it really is just where you are. Some people don't have time, but they have money. Some people have money, right? But they don't have time. It's like one of those things, right? So you really have to just kind of figure out, like, do you have the time to sit down and learn this? Do you have no choice but to learn it? Then if that's the case, then you may want to do something like the subscription service, right? Because right there you have the support, you have us to come in, create your framework. And then from there, we go in and we explain everything to you, and then you're kind of left on your own. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us, right? That may be something better for you. Now, if you're like, listen, I don't have time. So my motto in my business is, for my clients, you shouldn't have to be the accountant and CEO. Because the reality is the CEO's main job is to bring in business and create business, right? For your company. However, it takes time to get there. So some people, they may be busy. Like you may have children. You may still be working a job. You may be trying to get your business off the ground, but guess what? You don't have time to worry about bookkeeping and taxes and what's right. And when is this deadline? And when is that deadline? And what's the penalty for that if you don't do this? Right. So then you may want to hire someone to do that. So I always, and that's why I say, I try to meet clients who they are, but my main goal always is to make sure and help them get to that finish line on whatever that finish line is for them. Right. So, it really does depend. And I wouldn't say a necessary budget amount. What I will say is that you need to know your numbers. So when you're getting started, you need to detail out and say, listen, okay, these are my personal bills. Because when you're getting started, 9 times out of 10, most people are starting with their own capital. Right? Or even if you are given a loan or given some investment money or seed money from somewhere, you still need to detail out, okay, this is how much my merchandise is going to cost me. This is how much, shipping, packaging, marketing, all these things are going to cost me. Now I have this money left over. What exactly, how exactly can I spend this money? But what I will say is people who do not hire I can come from a perspective of people coming to me, right? When people come to me, it's like I'm starting to restructure your business. We're pointing out things you should be doing, things you shouldn't be doing. I'm saving people money. So while at the same time, I'm an expense, which all expenses paid to me is a write-off. But while I am an expense, I'm also a huge asset as well. So it's one of those things where you should try to find the money to pay your team, because your team is going to be the ones that's going to help you get wealthy. Right. So it's one of those things where, you got to kind of figure it out, but just map it out and see exactly how much you can afford to pay.
I love that. I love that mapping out. And, you prioritize. Mm-hmm. We want shoes. We want food, eating out. So you have to prioritize this budget for your business, which brings me to the question of paying yourself, like people tracking them paying themselves. So how important do you think it is for people to, prioritize paying themselves first?
So I think it's super important for people to prioritize paying themselves. I've always paid myself first. Even when I was working 9 to 5 in corporate, I always paid myself. I got the idea from Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So in there, his rich dad would always pay himself first and, get the things that he wanted. And simply by making the effort to say, hey, this is what I want. How can I, what can I do to get there? And so I think the same attitude an approach has to be taken in your business. I'm also very realistic. When you first start your business, you may not even be making enough money or have enough money, or most of the capital may be coming from, your paycheck or, your savings, right? So you may not be paying yourself in the beginning. But when you do start to pay yourself, once you are operating at a profit, I suggest not to get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm going to pay myself here this month. And no, I'm not going to pay myself there. No, then I'm going to pay myself there. Because what that means is that you are not properly planning out your finances. And what I mean by that is when someone says they want to make $1 million, right? If a company says, you know what, this month, next year, we want to make $1 million. What they're going to do, and I do this too in my company, I set a goal and then I work backwards. So if I know that I have payroll to meet, I know I want to make a specific profit, I may want to hire a certain amount of people. So now I know what all of my expenses are, and I also know what my goals are. I then work backwards to say, okay, well, what do I need to do? Who do I need to hire? What do I need to implement? What processes do I need to put in place to make sure that I can get to that goal, right? And it's the same thing once you decide to start paying yourself payroll, right? Once you put yourself on payroll, you don't not pay yourself. No, you figure out how you're going to make more money so that paying yourself is not an issue, right? The first thing that we are going to do when we have a business is we want to instantly put ourselves on the back burner. It's no similar to having children. right? Like you have a child, you're nurturing it, you're feeding it, you're helping it grow, you're helping, you're developing it, and boom, right? It grows into this beautiful thing. And then the minute something happens with your child, you instantly put yourself on the back burner, right? And it's the same exact concept with your business. Like with your business, you're going to always want to put yourself on the back burner, but you have to say, listen, I know this is my baby and my baby may not have that much money, but you have to figure out, and as the CEO of your business, say, we need more money. What do we need to do to make sure that we have more money?
I really like that you mentioned, prioritizing getting more money, because a lot of times we do go immediately to where should I cut back? Where should I cut back? When we really have to sometimes push ourselves to know where can I get to so that I can afford to pay myself first, or what are some extra things I need to do, or have some structure or just discipline to do those things. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad that you. I think the biggest question before we go into what people want to know is about loans and all of those things, is how did Donald Trump pay $750 in taxes?
Okay, so this is what I'm going to say about Donald Trump. I did not do any extensive research into Trump's taxes because, one, I don't even know what's out there that's actually true, what's not. And Trump did not pay $750 in taxes only. Right. And so, of course, those are the headlines, shall I say. But one, the first thing I want to say is Trump is now in the hot seat and now being audited. So the fact that everybody wants to do what Trump is doing, but ignoring the fact that he's under audit and he may be in trouble, and him and his accountant could potentially, go to jail or pay huge fines, is like totally funny to me that everybody's like, well, yeah, I know Trump is like under investigation, and I know that he's under audit, and I know that like all these other negative things, but yeah, how can I pay $750 like him? But ideally, I get it. It's more of the concept and more of the theory of, okay, how can I pay as little taxes as possible? You have to keep in mind, right? Trump is pretty much in the real estate game, right? So, with what that really means is that there are a lot of write-offs associated with that. There are, there's depreciation. There is, maybe some, he may be giving stock, into his company out. And again, it's going to probably be to his children, right? But at the end of the day, that's still a write-off for him at the business level. He's paying salaries. He's doing all these things, because it is a situation where he's in one of the best tax advantage industries there is, which is real estate. So I'm not surprised. And if you hear him speak about, he'll say, yeah, I paid taxes, but he's only really talking about the taxes that he paid on the state level. And he'll talk about all these hundreds of millions of dollars that he's paid in taxes on the state level. And the reason why he's paid so much on the state level is because, it is a situation where on the state level, he's not able to get those same exact deductions that they have on the federal level. Right? Because federal taxes and state taxes are two different things. Another thing that Trump took advantage of is probably net operating loss. Now, what that means is when you are a corporation and you are operating at a loss, that loss sits at the business level, right? Because remember, I told you everything from the corporate stays at the corporate level. So you're taxed at the corporate level. Everything is occurring at that level. And now what happens when you are operating at a loss? Before Trump came in office, what the net operating loss tax rule was, you can carry it back 2 years or carry it forward 20 years. Now what that means is, let's just say hypothetically Trump paid 20 million in taxes. Right. But then let's just say, in 2017 or whatever, when he paid those little bit of taxes. So let's just say let's say in 2015, he paid $20 million in taxes. But then in 2017, he had a loss so great. Let's say he had a loss of $100,000. I mean, 100 million, right? Because he paid 20 million. So he had, a loss of 100 million. What happens is he can go back and say to the IRS from 2 years ago, he can say, hey, I know I paid you $20 million, but I need a refund because now I'm operating at a loss of 100 million. So guess what I get to do? I get to go back to the IRS and say, hey, I need my money back from 2 years. Like he can go back 2 years, right? And then let's just say he has more money left over. I mean, more of a loss left over that he didn't need to use. So that was a 20,000, right? From 2015. And so now he now has 80,000 to carry forward for 20 years to offset his losses. I mean, to offset any of his gains, right? Yeah. And so he probably did that. If things were not going good for him and he paid taxes previously, then guess what he did? He went back to the IRS and he said, hey, I need a refund. And that's why I think, and I believe that there was like a couple $100 million refund that he got. And that's why he got the refund, because he probably carried it forward. Now with his new tax law, you can't carry it back. You can only carry it forward, but you can carry it forward indefinitely. So that means if let's say we can use the same example, you had $100 million and you can keep offsetting your gains of $100 million all the way until that 100 million that you lost, let's say in 2020, is exhausted. Right. And so it's things like that. And just knowing things like that, that's available. And that's how, you get to a point where you have situations and things where like Trump isn't paying any federal taxes. Trump paid taxes. He just probably didn't pay a lot of federal taxes. And the only reason why he even got to that point is because he had already paid taxes. And he, for whatever reason, his business probably isn't doing as well. On top of, him creating other businesses to offset. There's a lot of things that, he could have done. And I'm not necessarily sure all of them were legal or the things that he should have been doing. But please believe that 75% of the tax code is about how not to pay taxes. And only 25% of it, and it may be lower than that, but only about 25% of it is telling you, okay, this is why you need to pay taxes on whatever, whatever income you're bringing in. So there's ways.
That's why we can't read the headlines. We got to get the know from Miss Business.
Yes.
So, before we head out, I want to talk about SBA loans and the PPP loans that are very popular now, and also loans in general. What are your thoughts on that? And if you could just explain what that means to our audience and what's the purpose of getting those things?
Okay. So, the PPP loan and the EIDL loan are both SBA loans, provided as a COVID-19 economic relief solution for small businesses. Now, with the PPP, that one was specifically for payroll. So that one was to help business owners protect their payroll. They then released it for sole proprietors to then protect their income, right? And so, basically their payroll, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, the profit of a sole proprietorship is just the profit of the business. So with that being said, that's what PPP was for. EIDL was pretty much, that's a loan. So that's a loan, 3.75%, 30-year fixed rate loan. I think it's a great loan. I think that I have never seen the SBA just freely give out loans how they are giving out loans right now. I tell everyone, it's just very crazy to me because I have a lot of clients and it is not easy to get an SBA loan at all. They ask for everything. Like they need you to provide every single financial statement. You have to do a lot to get a loan from the SBA. So, it is a situation where with this, with this program, they've made it very easy for businesses to, get these loans. But while, I'm super passionate after going through this experience, because when I tell you, like, everyone was like super like, oh my God, I'm cooped in the house. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like during COVID, I was like at my busiest. I was so busy. So honestly, up until, basically from January all through August, I was extremely busy. I did not get a break until after August, because I, was not only filing taxes, but assisting clients with, their loans or their documents that they needed for loans. And now everyone needed to file taxes. And, it just became a thing where I became really busy. But what I also realized throughout that time is that so many of us are not qualified. We are not operating ourselves like businesses. We're operating like hobbies. And that costs us so much. Right. And so when I sit back and I look at that, I look at it from a perspective of, this is another opportunity where we could have gotten money to get ahead, but we were not financially literate. So we couldn't educate ourselves, and we missed another opportunity to get ahead. And it really hurt me, because I'm sitting here and I know, wow, you're operating your business and you've been operating your business and you have employees, but you're not even paying them correctly. Your business isn't registered. You don't have a business bank account. You don't, it's just like the things that should have been taken care of from the beginning. No one has. No one knows what their profit and loss is. No one knows, what their assets are in their business. No one, like, it was definitely a journey. But it opened my eyes up to, okay, we now need to take it back to the basics. The basics are important, because, we can't be out here not operating properly. We're not operating properly. We're just doing things. And I get it. We don't know, right? It's not a lot of the times where people, they don't want to do right. It's that a lot of people don't know. And so that's why I'm like, nope, I need to, have this communication about this, because it is so very important. These loans are important. And I do want to also address, loans in general, right? Outside of these, the EIDL loan and the PPP loan. When you have your business, you may need a loan for different reasons, right? For inventory, for, payroll, just to make sure that you have cushion, so that your business isn't like, you're not like living like from invoice to invoice. You know how like when it's like you have a job and they're like, oh, you live from paycheck to paycheck. Right. Sometimes when you're in business, you live from invoice to invoice. And so that you don't have that feeling, or you're not doing that, you may need a loan. But it is key. And some people have said to me, like, even when I've posted something on my page, not too long ago, but maybe like a week or two ago, about this very topic, about me just being so upset about us missing this opportunity and our things not being in order. And, my efforts to make sure that I'm going to help and do my part to make sure that business owners are set up correctly. So many people are like, but why do I need a loan? Like, I didn't want debt. Like, I didn't want any debt. And so that's why I didn't apply. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you so much for asking that question, because I get that question all the time in that communication. Why do I need debt? All debt is not bad debt. And I think that we have the mindset where we think that all debt is bad debt. And that's not true. Debt is so that you can leverage someone's money and then you make profit off of it, right? That is a very different communication than saying, oh, I'm going to get this debt to purchase a home, and the only thing that I'm going to be doing is paying interest on this money, right? That's debt. And in my eyes, that's bad debt. It may be necessary debt because you want your primary resident and you want your car and you want these things. But then you have debt, let's say like the SBA loan. And how I explained it to people, I gave an example of when I was in corporate. And then I also related it to, like, someone having a small business. And I told them when I was in real estate private equity, when I was in corporate, they will raise $275 million and go out and get a $200 million line of credit. And then on top of that, they'll have another $200 million of a loan. And the reason why they do that is because, yes, I have this $275 million, but guess what? I'm not going to take my whole $275 million. I'm going to use OPM, other people's money, to then leverage it. So guess what? If they got that interest rate, at 3%, let's say we use the same interest rate, 3.75%, when they go and when they go and buy this building and they flip it, they're going to make way more than 3.75%. Right. But they're able to do more. So instead of being able to do one building, they were able to do multiple buildings at one time. Why? Because they were able to leverage that money. And that's no different than a small business. If you have the SBA giving you money, you sit down and you figure out, okay, how can I make this money that I'm going to receive? How am I going to make this money make me money so that this 3.75% that I have to pay means nothing? I'm going to buy, I'm going to invest in my business. I'm going to do whatever. Right. So now you may be operating at, let's just say at a 50% profit. Once you sell everything. Now, what are you not going to pay somebody 3.75% to help you make something that's going to gross you 50%? You understand what I'm saying? So it's really a situation where you have to think about these things. You have to analyze it and you have to see, okay, what makes sense, and really restructure your mind and your thought process as it relates to debt. Not all debt is bad debt, especially if it's allowing you to get where you're going faster. And that's what we need to do. We need to think about that. How can I leverage that and, get where I'm going, hire employees, buy more merchandise, pay for marketing, whatever it is, just be able to do that. So I think that, I don't think that anything is wrong with a loan, as long as you're not, spending it on things that's not income generating. If you're going to spend it on things that's not income generated, then it's bad, right? Because it's just an expense at that point.
Definitely. That was so good. I just felt, even as far as what we do in Black Tip Business, it's like people need the knowledge to know what to do. And it's because we don't know. So I can imagine that was emotional for you seeing people and of course your audience and your clients who you focus on, go through that. So quick question on what are some things and I guess a write off that they don't necessarily think about, when it comes to taxes?
Typically, I'm trying to think, what are my most? So the things that people are not thinking about the most are the assets of their business, especially when they acquire them, maybe before they quote unquote consider themselves, started, right? So some people are buying equipment, some people are buying machinery, some people are purchasing technology. They are not considering those things. Another thing that people are not considering is a lot of people, you can pay your children, right? So a lot of people don't understand that it is a process that you have to go through in terms of document trail and paying them correctly, but you can pay your children. Another thing that people can write off, if you are operating as a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC, you can write off your home office. If you are operating as a corporation or S Corp, you can actually rent out your home to your business. And as long as it's less than 15 days out of the year, when you receive that income from your business, you won't have to pay taxes on it, right? That is a big one that a lot of people don't know about. But it is very, very important, and it's key because it can be a significant write-off for you because your corporation, your S Corp, those entities are supposed to have board meetings. And so if you're conducting your meetings at your home, you can then write that off. And so I'm trying to think, subscription fees. So not necessarily subscription fees, but processing fees. So a lot of people are paying to, let's say, credit card processing fees, or any sort of fees that's being paid out to any third party. A lot of clients will not give me those fees. Like, and they just forget about them. Like, oh yeah, this is how much money hit my account, or, oh, this is how much money I made. And they're not considering the other fees that were, actually taken out depending on how that money hits their account. And so that's super important. Let me see. I want to give you one more.
Okay, I was like, you gave us some good ones. That was an important one.
I'm trying to think of one more. If you do have employees, I think a lot of people forget that that the taxes that they pay for their employees is a deduction. I think that a lot of people forget, like, their Social Security tax, Medicare tax portion that they pay for their employees is also a tax deduction. Depending on the state you're in, you are able to hire people within certain, that fit certain criteria. So whether that is that they are under 18, or if they were previously like incarcerated, things like that, that is also a tax credit for you. So I think that those things people don't think about, or maybe some of them they don't even know about.
Wow, those are gems. So of course we've learned so much. We have to have you back. Of course, this was so good. I'm pretty sure people are going to be asking questions and they're going to be wanting you back. For those, do you have any advice for those who are just starting out in their business? I'm sure for you, your journey wasn't always easy, but you've, like I said, grown so much, and I see you everywhere. What advice can you give to people to keep going, and even like talking about mindset and believing in yourself and your business?
In terms of mindset, I feel that you just have to be resilient. You have to be resilient, and you have to understand that a lot of times it's just going to be you. There won't be a lot of applauses. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's hate, but this is your journey and your journey alone. And so you can't put that pressure on anyone else to try to, oh my God, they're not praising me, or they're not like 1000% behind me. I'm lucky. I have a very group of supportive friends and supportive family members. But the reality is there's nights that I'm up creating and detailing out my processes, and it's just me. It's no one else. And that's the hard part, right? There's sometimes like, I can't tell you, even when I was in corporate and I was studying for my CPA, I would tell people, I'm not going on vacation. Don't call me. I'm not doing anything. You have to take that time to really just be inside of you and your business. And you have to be able to block out the outside and know that you're not missing anything, and where your vision is going to take you. You have to just be confident in that. And so I definitely would give that advice. Something else that I think is really important is processes. I think when you are starting out, a lot of people do not pay attention to processes, but it is the single most important thing that you could ever do in your business. Right. So I think as, you grow and, you really start to realize, okay, I'm a business owner. It's just me. Cause I think that mindset piece is hard. It's really hard. But it's also when on the business side, as you start to grow, I think that it's important for business owners to think about processes. How am I going to essentially get my product into the hands of my consumer easy, seamlessly, and service them the best way that I can? So that would be my advice.
Great advice. So how can people connect with you? And if you have anything coming up, how can they contact you, and how can people support you?
So, in terms of anything that I have going on, I'm always, I will always post it on social media. So my social media handle is Miss missbusiness101.com. And so that's my social media. You can go on my website, missbusiness101.com. And I will always have an events tab up there. So if I'm ever going to do like any events, because I host a lot of, well, not a lot, but I do a few
really
events
chop
here.
Chop it again. Chopping. Oh man. Okay, we're almost there. Testing.
Hello.
Okay, just start. How can they support you?
Okay. So you can support me. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Miss Business 101. Miss Business 101 across all platforms. You can also reach out to me. You can schedule a consultation. You can send me a DM. You can go on my website, missbusiness101.com. And there you'll be able to keep up with me if I'm going to be at any events or be hosting anything or doing any webinars. I do a lot of webinars. So all of those things will be listed on my website. You can also schedule a consultation with me. You can always get my email address and email me. I feel like it should be pretty easy to get in contact with me.
Yes, and your team is so amazing in communication.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and we're so excited for the things that you have coming up and just the success of your business. We're so excited for you. So thank you for being on the show, Miss Business.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
This episode really should have been called Break It Down because Shaquanna really broke it down. And I was totally the amen corner when she said, you're giving discounts that you cannot afford. Whew, I see it all the time. Again, this is why it's so important to have your proper systems in place and really comb through your numbers. Tax season is coming up, so please speak with a bookkeeper and a tax professional about your numbers. And if you need assistance or a guide, check out Black to Business Blueprint, where we have a financial tracker and calculator to help you get your finances in order. You can grab this resource at blacktobusiness.com/blueprint. Again, blacktobusiness.com/blueprint. And I don't know about y'all, but we are trying to be where the money resides, and we do not have time for the IRS to be blocking these lessons. All right, family, take care of yourself and take care of your business. Until next time.